I think that the solution to living a happy life is just to be stupid. Hi guys, I saw this video titled Why Ogres Are the Best Warhammer Race to Live As, and I have never watched anything about ogres, but someone on my Warhammer reaction commented that they're actually even cooler than the orcs, so I've been really curious to learn about them. Let's do it!
With the release of Total Warhammer 3, I've been spending a lot of time playing as the races of the old fantasy world, seeing what they believe in, what they cherish the most, and how they act on and off the battlefield as I absorb lore about these factions like a bulimic sponge. And in a conversation that I promise you will see how it's relevant, one of my friends asked me if I would rather be a Russian soldier during World War I or live in the world of Attack on Titan. Obviously the correct answer here is suicide by any means possible.
Yeah, I was gonna say, neither. I don't think you want either of them.
Both of those options are absolutely horrendous, but it got me thinking. If there was one faction in any of the Warhammer settings I had to live as, which one would it be? Which Warhammer faction would give me the most amount of happiness and satisfaction in life where I suddenly would become a member of them like the world's most self-inserted isekai?
So for me, so far, that's the orcs, because I don't know the ogres yet.
Came to the conclusion that the faction I would pick is the Ogres of Fantasy. Now there may be, some civilized debate over me picking the damn Ogres for this. I do some for the Elder after all, and the Elder when they're not fighting are basically a perfect post-scarcity society.
They are very cool, but it does worry me a little how crazy they went, and I wouldn't want that to happen to me, so...
Perhaps you say that the Necrons would be perfect, with them all being immortal beings who can repair their bodies after more or less complete destruction. Or the High Elves / Lumineth Realm Lords, or one of the Dwarfs, or God knows how many other factions you might say is best to live as. And to be fair, a lot of factions in Warhammer do have pretty decent standards of living, even by our real life standards. Not just the standards of living of a peasant who has to deal with demons from hell every other Tuesday. But even taking all of these factions into consideration, I still think the Ogres are the faction and race I'd choose to be if I had to pick one to live as in either Warhammer setting, 40k, Fantasy, or Age of Sigmar. Here's why. So the Ogres like food, right? That's literally their whole shtick as a race.
Okay, that's a bonus point. I love food as well.
Love nothing more than to eat mountains upon mountains of food. On top of that, they're incredibly strong, stupid, brutish semi-nomads living in the mountains of Morn, located in scenic middle of nowhere in the Warhammer world, surrounded by incredibly hostile wildlife. They spend all their time eating, killing things to eat, and making mercenary companies out of themselves so they can afford to buy more things to eat. Why on God's green earth would I say a race of gluttonous morons like the Ogres are the best race to be if you had to live in any of the settings?
Wait, they sound great. What do you mean gluttonous morons? Is that me? Am I a gluttonous moron because I like them?
First, let's discuss strength. Do you know what's stronger than an ogre in terms of beings that the ogres will regularly make contact with? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. From Khorne to the people of Bretonnia to Cathay to even most demons of chaos, nothing is stronger than an ogre. You might say that the average ogre isn't nearly as strong as a bloodthirster or one of the dragons the high elves can wield or any other number of elite units in the Warhammer settings, and you'd be right. But the thing is, how often are the ogres encountering those? How often does the ogre mercenary unit employed by the orcs wake up and find out that Scarbrand has wandered in the camp? Not very often. Usually an ogre will wake up, find the nearest gnoblar, eat it whole, and then walk over to the cafeteria for breakfast proper. And he'll do something like, I don't know, hire himself out to a caravan of humans in exchange for a couple dozen pounds of meat. Or just eat the caravan, because it's easier to do that. Either works for the ogres. The point is that in terms of the average day-to-day life of one of these fat bastards, an ogre isn't going to be outmatched by anyone short of the bigger ogres in his tribe. So there's basically no chance of experiencing things like the Empire does and waking up to find that chaos has torched your entire province and there's nothing you can do about it. An Imperial citizen will weep and desperately try to figure out what to do with themselves, assuming that survival is even possible for them. An ogre will just vor the chaos invaders and go back to whatever he was doing 5 minutes beforehand. As long as you aren't an ogre unlucky enough to find yourself in the same postcode as Gotrek and Felix, you're pretty much unchallenged in day-to-day life. And
so those two were like Legolas and Gimli of Warhammer?
in terms of political power, well, it's solid enough. Sure, you'll never see an ogre arguing for the kingdom's trading rights with Ulthuan, but who gives a damn? Not the ogres. In terms of political power, they have absolutely everything they need. Most people the ogres come into contact with can be bullied into giving them pretty much whatever they want. Some governor in Araby can be pretty easily convinced to give an ogre tribe all the gold it needs when the other option is being devoured alive. Sure, there's no ogre emissary in Altdorf, but who gives a shit? There's no point in the ogres doing anything like that because it takes more brain power than they have to turn that kind of influence into burger meat. Which nonetheless brings me to my next point. They're neighbors. Now, even with their immense power and girth, if they were next door to the strongest factions in the Warhammer world like Chaos or the Empire or one of the Elves, they still probably wouldn't be worth choosing to be the Warhammer race to live as. But those factions aren't their neighbors. Their neighbors are dwarfs who never leave their goddamn holes unless continent-wide destruction or greater is about to occur, the Skaven, who are basically free food as far as an ogre is concerned, and Cathay, who send caravans of money and or food to the ogres through the mountains of Morn. Not intended for the ogres, sure, but that's where it ends up. Their non-civilized neighbors include Yetis, also
There's Yetis in Warhammer? Guys, I'm missing out on so much lore. What?
known as food, Mournfangs, also known as cavalry and or food, and Stonehorns, really big cavalry and or really big food. No one around them is a threat to their civilization or way of life. In fact, because they're often hired as mercenaries, their neighbors encourage their gluttonous ways of life. So as an ogre, not only would you never be conquered, you just end up being encouraged to help your neighbors with their issues in return for even more food. Your way of life is literally never in danger. Speaking of neighbors, if you're an ogre, you have an entire group of beings dedicated to making your life easier. Gnoblars. Now sometimes gnoblars are goblins that serve the ogres, sometimes they're something else entirely, just happen to look like goblins, sometimes they're a distinct subspecies of goblin and greenskin. I don't care what they are, and neither should you. What matters is that as an ogre, these bastards are at your beck and call. Need some expendable units in a fight? The Gnoblars are great at catching arrows with their faces. Need someone to ferry supplies and materials for you? The Gnoblars aren't busy doing anything, they'll hold all your shit.
Wait, well, why? Are they getting paid handsomely, or are the ogres forcing them?
Need something to eat? The Gnoblars will get it for you, and if there's nothing on the menu they bring you want, then no worries. Just eat the fucking Gnoblar. As an ogre, you have an entire race of beings dedicated to being your servant for all your menial tasks. If you don't want to do it, you probably don't have to do it. Now, assuming you are a functioning human being, concepts like an entire race devoted entirely to servitude might make you think troubling thoughts like rights inherent to all living beings and the like. You know who doesn't have those thoughts? Ogres. They don't have any philosophical thoughts like that. They're too stupid to even think up words like philosophical. Time spent saying all those syllables is time that could be better spent eating. An ogre will wake up, eat, shit, then eat again, maybe have sex, definitely eat, possibly fight something, definitely eat once more, and go back to sleep.
Hi guys, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you!
This is the entirety of what the ogre thought process is devoted to. Does contemplating your place in the world help you get more food to shove down your greasy, fat throat? Nope, so why bother with it? Discussing what it means to truly be alive won't feed the tribe, so shut the hell up and go hunting. You're never gonna have a midlife crisis or a panic as you realize you're at a dead-end job or anything like that as an ogre, because
I think that the solution to living a happy life is just to be stupid. Because all the stupid people are the happiest. They don't have to worry about deep things, because deep things are just not even occurring to them, and I think that's beautiful.
they're not smart enough to have those things. But even beyond mundane stuff like that, the ogres are stupid enough that they can't comprehend that the world they live in is profoundly awful. Take the Elder back over in 40k. They have to sit and think on the fact that not only does the galaxy they live in suck beyond measure, but a lot of that is due as a direct result of their species' actions. Or the Space Marines and their grim, miserable quest to fight back the undefeatable swarms of chaos, the Tyranids, Necrons, and more. They sure as shit aren't happy people. Or maybe the Dwarven Kingdoms to go back to fantasy, watching as their realms slowly fade away in an unending swarm of green football morons. All of these races can understand history, loss, and the overwhelming odds facing them at every moment of the day. But the ogres? They're too dumb to realize what they face. They see an unending horde of Norskins and think me and the tribe will be eaten well tonight. They hear humans complaining about how chaos is once again raised and ruined their lands, and they just don't understand the problem. The only thing an ogre will be sad about is if he didn't get enough food that day because he isn't smart enough to factor anything else in. If you were an ogre, 99% of the time you'd be too stupid to be anything but content at the very least. And yet, ogres aren't completely done. They aren't like the other hunger-obsessed faction, the Tyranids, and they certainly aren't like orcs or Khornates, where your brain is so neglected and underused you may as well remove it, like an appendix or my pancreas. Ogres are smart enough to have a religion about things beyond beating the shit out of the guy next to you. Sure, it's a religion all about eating, which is like one step up, but it's still enough to provide them with spiritual contentment. An ogre eats and he feels closer to the maw. He murders something to eat later and he feels close to the maw.
So the maw is just a huge mouth. I mean, that makes sense. You know, that's pretty good god for the religion, I must say.
Ogres are intelligent enough to want to make pilgrimages to the great maw they worship, so clearly there's some kind of brains at work here. Even beyond that, ogres are on incredibly rare occasions able to mimic cultures of the races they often become mercenaries for. Sometimes, if an ogre spends enough of his time around dwarfs, he might decide that it is time for him to become a slayer and find glorious death in battle, eating everything he kills until that finally happens. Now, dwarfs are a proud people, not very fond of others looking down on them. In a metaphorical sense, they don't really have have a choice in the matter in a literal sense. But even they find it fucking hilarious when an ogre decides that it's time to honor Grimnir with suicide by monster, and the ogre is able to find meaning in his life from this. In other cultures, they might find satisfaction in the finest elven wines, or learning the latest gossip about the Elector Counts. And those other cultures aren't going to tell them no or look down on them, because I don't know about you, but I'm not going to be the one to explain to the 10-foot tall, 8-foot wide murder machine how stupid he looks trying to read a Shakespeare play. Are you gonna be that guy? Do you know what all this ultimately means? They're at the perfect spot between smart and stupid. They're smart enough to find meaning in life from all sorts of things, but they're dumb enough to not care or even understand that their world is the shithole to end all shitholes. Ogres are the best race possible to be if you had to choose one Warhammer race, from whatever setting. And now I have my final point. Food. Ogres love food. It's the most important thing about their culture, race, and whatever else about them you can think of. Food and their stomachs are so goddamn important to them that on an ogre, the only body part you usually see armored is their gut. What about food is so great it's worth mentioning as a positive for being an ogre? Imagine this life. You're so simple that you wake up and your only major concern is grabbing a nice, hot meal. There are no mortgage payments or phone/car bills, no politics or celebrity garbage to deal with. You just wake up and find the nearest snack, which may damn well be one of your servants. There is not a single miserable ogre in existence because this life is fucking perfect for finding happiness. Your purpose and wants in life are to eat, you excel at killing things to eat, your culture encourages you to eat. If you suddenly became an ogre, all of your worries would melt away as your gut grew 3 sizes that day. All you care about is food. And because ogres just like food and don't give a shit about things like counting calories, the food pyramid, or not eating the fat directly out of a pig carcass, you'll eat everything. An entire world of flavors open up to you as an ogre. Am I saying this all because I am at core a fat, lazy bastard? Yes. Yes, I am. But there's more to it than that. There's the beauty and simplicity of the ogre life calling to me. And the ogres don't take it to the level that chaos followers do. There's no ogre followers of the Great Maw in the same way that there are followers of Kor and Slaanesh or the other gods. When a cultist follows a chaos god, that's it. Whatever their god wants now, that's all they can look forward to. But ogres can do other things. An ogre can worship his god by eating and decide that he wants to arm wrestle every dwarf in the village as part of his self-identity on the side. An ogre can eat a medieval village's worth of people during the day, and at night he can become an artist. It might be art painted using nothing but ogre shit, but it's still art. Whatever.
It's still art. Hey, people sell empty canvases as art. People tape bananas to walls to make art. Ogre shit is a beautiful medium to convey your deepest feelings and emotion in form of art, in my opinion. Hell yeah.
Whatever you want to do as an ogre, you can do it, as long as you remember to eat twice your body weight in food that day. You have all the freedom you could possibly want, as long as you remember to supersize that order of fries. So go, dear viewers, go forth with the knowledge that if you had to pick a single race to live as in one of the Warhammer settings, it would be the ogres. Thank you for watching, you fat, beautiful bastards, and take care out there.
I loved learning about the ogres. I will say that spiritually, I am still an orc. Like, in my heart, I just feel the energy of the orcs resembles my own energy a lot more. But if you were to come up to me and tell me, hey, Maddie, seriously, I'm gonna bring you into the Warhammer universe,